It's that time of the summer for us Floridians to become one with the ocean in search of our favorite bugs.
That's right, Rick. We're breaking out the dive gear and dusting off our tickle sticks, nets, and snares. We're talking lobster on the Florida Insider Fishing Report, which starts now.
Welcome to the Florida Insider Fishing Report, presented by Yamaha.
You're watching the Florida Insider Fishing Report Lobster Edition this week, and the buzz about the bugs has been undeniable as Florida residents get their very own one-day itty-bitty season. We're super excited about it.
The first time in the history that I know of, Bree,
Yeah.
that we're actually letting all the residents get a day on the water before anybody else invades the mini season.
Exactly. Well, I know I'm excited and we'll be out there. But before we get to our reports, I see someone over at the CCA Workbench with Dave, who will also be joining in on the Lobster Takeover. Dave, who do we have over there with you today?
We have Johnny Cooper, nicknamed
Cooper.
Froggy because he's always in the water.
Well, there you go.
He's a lobster man.
There we go. He's going to know a lot about
That's
it.
not really how he got
I
that
don't want to
name,
go
but
into anything
we'll
else
talk about that
how
off
you
the
guys
camera.
nicknamed, all right?
Yeah, I don't want to know how I got Froggy either. All right, well, let's dive into the Takeuchi Keys region and get our limits by lunchtime with Captain Ridge Murphy.
You know, lobsters are everyone's favorite cockroach down here in the Alta Equipment region, from snorkeling on the shallow patches and grass ledges in 6 feet of water to free diving some of the bigger reefs in 20 feet of water. Lobsters can be targeted by anyone of any skill of any age. Some things you want to look for when you're diving for lobsters is look under the grass ledges and dive down to the rocks and look underneath the hangovers. From the surface, you can see their antennas hanging out of the edges of the rocks, and that's a good indicator to dive down and maybe take a peek, nice and slow so you don't disturb them, and have a tickle stick, a net, and a good pair of gloves with a good measuring device attached to your net. Work with a buddy and take turns with your breath holds, and one by one you can tease them out of the hole, scooping them up with your net. Make sure to have the boat driver nearby to keep you from getting ran over, and that way he can take another look at them with a measuring device, because the FWC takes their lobsters very seriously, and you don't want to have a short one on the boat. You can also target lobsters at night up on the flats, and if you want to see how that's done, go to Captain Rick Murphy's YouTube channel and look for Bree and Sarah Stanzik's lobster video, and that's a good little way to get a lobster 101 before the season starts. I got a photo of myself actually with Froggy on the diversion with some jumbo lobsters that we got a few years back.
All right, let's go offshore, bub.
I know we've been talking about this a bunch lately, but it's hard not to. The snapper fishing on the edge at night has been on fire. Yellowtails and mangrove snappers are pushing out to 60 to 90 feet of water, and it's only going to get better in the next few weeks, so pick your weather days and make sure to watch those afternoon thunderstorms. You don't want to be offshore at night, and the only thing that's keeping you from getting home is a lightning storm. Anchor, spot lock up, and free line shrimp or cut bait or strips of fish bites behind the boat and in a chum slick. And remember, guys, it's 5 mangroves to your 10 aggregate snapper limit, so make sure you understand that rule before you get out there. I have a photo of Waldo with a nice pair of nighttime mangrove snappers with Captain Steven Tahara on the grease release.
Nice. All right, let's go inshore.
I spoke to Brandon and Jared Steer, and the bone fishing in the middle and lower keys has been good. Fish up on the flats with the current, looking for wakers, mudders, and tailors. Stop the boat up ahead of the fish and throw a shrimp or light bucktail jig, pink, white, or tan on a Fenwick Pro Elite 7-foot medium to medium light rod. Throw up ahead of the fish and wait for him to approach it and bump it slow as he gets close. And once he gets tight, then lift the rod up real high to keep him from digging down and rubbing you off on the bottom.
All right, what else you got, bub?
Tarpon fishing all along the Keys still has been good. There's a few fish in the backcountry, but mostly some smaller juveniles around the islands and in the bait balls. But there's still some fish migrating on the ocean, mostly headed north, but you get a few wrong way fish mixed in. For the little guys, you can throw bass assassin PNVs or fish bites, hammerfish, shrimps on a light Fenwick spinning rod. And for some of those bigger migrating fish on the ocean, you can target those fish with fly rods, throwing worm flies, small yellow flies, or tan flies. And I have another photo, and I want to congratulate Captain Rick Murphy, guided by myself, on winning the Poor Boys tournament out of the Lorelei this past weekend. That's his 150th career win, and you deserve it, Pop, and congratulations.
Woo! Rick, we're so proud of you and Ridge. It's so awesome. Congratulations. It's right back there.
I know.
You guys
That's so
deserve it.
cool that we got actually have a little sign as one of our prizes that we won. But it was so cool to be able to do that with Ridge to win the 150th title and the 149th with Ridge as well at Casa Vieja Lodge, catching 50 sailfish in one day to win.
Wow.
He's quite a little angler, that's for sure.
Well, it's Murphy takeover, that's
Yeah,
for
man.
sure. All right, well, let's take a look at the hot spots. What do you think?
All right. Ridge says that in the Florida Keys, the inshore bonefish are in the middle and the lower Keys. Fish are up on the flats, fish into the current looking for mudders, throw shrimp, or a light bucktail jig, just like the one I showed you. Offshore nighttime mangrove fishing in 60 to 90 feet of water. Anchor or spot lock and chum free line cut chunks of fish bites or maybe a little bit of shrimp. What do you think?
Well, speaking of tournaments, let's see what tournaments are going on in the Florida Keys. First, we have the Del Brown Invitational Permit Tournament, July 14th through the 17th in Sugarloaf Key, where elite anglers fly fish on Lower Keys flats for permit and bonefish to earn awards and honor the late angling pioneer who caught and released more than 500 permit on fly during his lifetime. Then the hunt is on during the Key West Lionfish Derby, July 20th through the 21st, to catch the most, largest, and smallest invasive lionfish captured by spear, hand net, slurp gun, or hook and line for cash and other prizes. Next, we have the Key West Marlin Tournament set for July 17th through the 20th with a guaranteed $50,000 in cash prizes and coincides with the annual Hemingway Days celebration. And finally is the second annual Bartenders Dolphin Tournament in Layton, which is a one-day fun day dolphin tournament on August 12th that is open to bartenders and restaurant employees fishing for cash prizes and, of course, good times. So for more information on these Keys tournaments and more, head to flakeys.com. But you know, Rick, when it comes to lobstering in the Fish Bites East region, Captain Mike Holliday keeps it shallow along the patch reefs in 8 to 30 feet, which is pretty much where I'll be. Hi, Mike.
How are you guys doing? So, yeah, what's cool about my region is you can snorkel. You can do a lot of your lobster dive with a mask and snorkel. You don't really need to have tanks and the full dive gear. We have some of the best lobster diving in the state in my region. Patch reefs in 25 to 30 feet of water, running from Palm Beach to Vero Beach. There's also a great reef line in 8 to 12 feet of water that runs from Hope Sound Beach all the way up to the St. Lucie Inlet and includes the Peck's Lake region. And then north of St. Lucie Inlet, that same reef continues all the way up to Bathtub Beach. Those areas will have big crowds on opening day. One of the best places to dive in my region is along the natural reef line running from the Pine Tree south of Fort Pierce all the way up to South Beach. And then there's another good stretch on the other side of the inlet from North Beach all the way up to the Condo line. All the artificial reefs in my region hold lobster, but the natural reefs in 65, 75, and 120 feet of water hold them. They're pretty much the most productive. Make sure you have a diver's dive flag down and a measuring device at all times on the water. Watch for slipper lobster, which tend to hang upside down underneath those ledges. Average lobster in my region, 1 to 2 pounds, but we get them to over 10 pounds. And I got a photo of a big one that Cam Kirkconnell caught. He got that lobster dinner for 6 in 12 feet of water off Peck's Lake. That's a real one there, man.
Yeah, it is.
That one will grab you back.
Yeah, you pull you back, that's for sure. Tell me about the sailfish, Pop.
Yeah, the summer sailfish bite has been epic with fish spread around throughout the region. One day the bite's in 60 feet of water off the St. Lucie Power Plant. The next day it's 130 feet of water straight out of St. Lucie Inlet or 90 feet of water off Hope Sound. The fish are really just spread out, and they seem to be most active wherever you're marking those bait schools on the bottom. This Friday and Saturday is a One More Bite Sailfish Tournament out of Stewart, so expect a lot of boats out on the water chasing fish on those days. Target them with live thread fins, pilchards, sardines, and goggle eyes, either slow troll, drifted, or deployed on a kite. You can also throw ballyhoo with a pink or a blue and white skirt. Average sailfish is pretty big. They're 40 to 50 pounds. Captain Chris Britton of Port St. Lucie, he went 6 for 8 on sails this week, fishing in 150 feet of water. And the fish in this photo ate a live thread fin.
It sure did. What else you got for us this weekend, Shore Bub?
Yeah, the tarpon fishing has been on fire for the summertime resident fish. Those beachfront fish for the tarpon migration, that's pretty much over. But there's still schools of fish holding in places like the Vero Cove and up in the bathtub, as well as around all the inlets have fish right now. There's also good action around Big Mud Creek, the north and south forks of the St. Lucie River, Harbor Branch up in the Indian River, and then up in the Loxahatchee River near the Boy Scout camp. You can target the fish in the inlets with live crabs, mullet, or thread fins, and the inshore fish will eat those same baits, as well as a Houdini-colored saltwater assassin, 4-inch sea shad. Cast it to the rolling fish, work it very slow. You'll get to bite. There's also been a decent crab run in the Indian River on the outgoing tides. The tarpon have been on the bridges, slurping them day and night. The average tarpon region, 40 to 100 pounds. I got a photo of Danny Cunningham. He got this nice tarpon in the St. Lucie Inlet at first light, and that fish ate a live mullet. The other bite we got going inshore, if you're looking to catch a big snook, the summertime snook populations have moved in out onto the beaches and into the inlets. Some of the largest fish of the year are schooled up and feeding. That means places like Hope Sound Wildlife Refuge, Bob Graham Beach, South Beach and Fort Pierce, and the Vero Cove. They all have fish running in shorelines, which makes for great sight fishing. In the inlets, the fish are holding tight to the rocks, particularly on the outgoing tides because the sharks have been really bad. For the beach fish, copper juice or green hornet colored saltwater assassin, 4-inch sea shad, or any bait fish fly, those are going to be money on those fish early and late in the day. In the middle of the day when the sun is brightest, you can fish thread fins, pilchards, or croakers. In the inlets, croakers are going to be the top baits. And the average fish right now, 8 to 15 pounds, but there's some bigger ones. Captain J.J. Klarman of Jensen Beach sent me this shot of a jumbo snook his client caught in the St. Lucie Inlet. That fish ate a live croaker.
Boy, it sure did. Mike, each week you got to give us the bass report, so what do you got?
Yeah, man, water levels are low on Headwaters Lake in Fellsmere, but the bass fishing's been on fire. The key has been to be on the water at dawn when the water is at its coolest period, and then look for the deeper areas of the lake, which also are going to have the cooler water. I was talking to Captain Nathan Schoen of OkeechobeeBassFishing.com. He's saying the top water bite has been outstanding around the hydrilla mats using small prop baits and frogs, and you want to fish them with exaggerated long pauses. Longer the pause, the better. The fish are eating it during the pause. And then as the morning heats up, look for the deeper areas of the lake and the deeper areas of the canals. Flip the hydrilla with a June bug colored worm and creature baits like a bass assassin skunk ape. You can also fish a fat job rig Senko style with just enough weight to give it a slow sink. Average bass right now in Headwaters is 2 to 4 pounds, which is a pretty nice average fish.
Mike, what a great report. We appreciate all those cool pictures. You had it all covered. Everything was covered so perfectly. Thank you so much. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the TH Marine hotspots from the East region. Mike says that inshore, the tarpon in the North Fork of the St. Lucie River near Harbor Ridge, live mullet, pilchards, or Houdini colored saltwater 4-inch sea shads, and then offshore red snappas in 120 to 160 feet of water off of Fort Pierce. Live goggle eyes, thread fins, sardines on a 7-0 circle hook's gonna work for those, Bree.
All right, well, we want to remind you of the Shoreline Showdown Surf Fishing Tournament Series presented by Fish Bites. 4 tournaments, 1 championship, and over $75,000 in guaranteed payouts, plus fishing for a chance to qualify to compete for the title of the Ultimate Surf Angler. We are 2 down with 2 more to go, so for more information on dates and locations, make sure you scan that QR code or visit shorelineShowdown.com. All right, next we are Lobster 101ing at the CCA Workbench for the Fish Bites Trading Post Rigs and Techniques with Dave Farrell and a little bit of Froggy.
No, it's not 101. We're going
deeper.
It's not 101? We're going deeper.
This is 201.
We're 201.
201.
It could be 911 before it's over.
Hopefully not. All right, and then we're headed where the monsters are in the Casa Vieja Lodge Southeast region with Captain Jimbo Thomas. We'll be right back.
Another lobster killer.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. Fenwick. Feel everything. Sirius XM Marine. Weather. Fish mapping. Entertainment. Penn. Let the battle begin. Casa Vieja Lodge, 5-star angling in beautiful Guatemala. Berkeley Prospect Chrome, Fish Bites Trading Post, the first choice of First Coast anglers. Castaway Coffee, one taste and you'll be hooked. And Daiquiri Deck, food, drinks, friends.
We're here at the CCA Workbench for the Fish Bites Trading Post Rigs and Techniques, and I've got Johnny Froggy Cooper with me. We're not going to debate how you got that name, but you do a lot of lobstering, and
I've done quite a bit,
and catch some going a lot deeper than other people. So we're going to talk a little bit about that as well. But when you're out there trying to find lobster, how do you go about it?
Well, sometimes the least obvious spots are the best, right? So
Right.
I found a lot of good spots just dragging behind the boat. You know, whether it's grass or maybe just a big reefy area, just a couple little potholes that you would normally overlook that you would never know from the boat, you know?
Right.
On the other hand,
Is there a certain depth that you target?
it just depends on the time of year. Like right now for this mini season, they're probably as shallow as they're ever going to be. And then maybe
How
after...
deep is that, you say?
Oh man, you could find them anywhere from the shoreline out to 10, 12, 15 feet right now.
Okay.
You know, I think until you get that first water temperature change is when they move out. And that's what Rick was talking about when he asked me about what do you do when they go deeper?
I gotcha.
So
you get somebody behind the boat dragging on a
just a ski rope.
Ski rope.
You know, and we found a lot of spots like that.
Right.
The other way is I always have one of these throw floats next to me on the console, whether I'm driving or wherever I am, whether it's in the Bahamas or here. And if you just happen to see a coral head or something, just flip it over, it unwinds, and marks your spot.
Do you mark them on the sonar machine or any of
You
that?
can,
Or are you
but
mostly
again,
looking
sometimes
over?
it's very inconspicuous, you know, just a small coral head or a crack or a ledge. And you know, if you throw this over, you could spin around. Yeah, you could hit man overboard on the GPS, or you could spin around and try to get in your wake and get lucky. But this is a little insurance that works good. Just
Right.
have these handy and just toss it over.
And you were telling me before that you were looking for what you call busy spots. What does that mean?
So like you could be on a long ledge, right? And every fisherman, most divers are fishermen too, they know when you're approaching a good spot, there's a school of chubs or horse-eye jacks or something midwater. But if you look on the bottom, you can have a ledge that's 400 yards long, but only a couple, like what we call busy spots, that may have just a little more life, maybe a school of porkfish or goatfish, or if you got like a couple coral heads and one of them has just a few glass minnows around it, or a black margate going in and out, just some life.
That's
right?
going to be the one
So
that you
life
look for.
brings life, it seems like. I don't know if it's the food chain or what.
Right.
If you see a little bit of action on this long ledge, which is basically nothing else, you better be looking right there for sure.
I got you. The lobster are going to be where the action is.
Life brings life.
I got
Yeah.
you. So we got a whole lot of different equipment in, so let's go through it. You're going to get a mask and snorkel, and you said to look for a mask that doesn't have a lot of volume to it.
Well, you know, again, everybody's been lobstering. Everybody knows the tickle stick and the lobster and all that, but Rick asked me to come to maybe touch on the deeper side of things.
Right.
So if you are going to try and go maybe late season or try to go where nobody else is and get to that deeper water, whether it's 25, 30, 50, 60, whatever it is, whatever you're capable of, yeah, you need a low volume mask, preferably carbon fiber fins.
What's the advantage of the carbon fiber?
So versus just the plastic, this has, you know, super light, and it snaps back. So
Recoil there.
Recoil. So on paper, you're using a lot less energy.
Right.
And when you're talking about diving deeper, it's all about conserving energy and keeping your heart rate down.
Right.
Right.
And that's why the weight belt comes into play as well.
And that's the weight belt's probably the most important of all of it. However, there's a little bit of a mathematical equation on how much weight based on
Right.
your body mass, whether you got a wetsuit or not, and that negates your natural buoyancy. So you have to fight less to go down. On the other hand, you got to bring it back up, right?
Right.
So there's a happy medium.
It's a good
on how much
idea to
weight.
get a little instruction in free diving before you do that.
I would strongly encourage a free diving course, whether it's online or just take from a personal instructor before
Right.
you start putting on a weight belt and figure it all out. But this will help you get to the bottom, stop fighting your natural buoyancy, and now you've got a little more bottom time to manipulate that lobster out of the hole or whatever you're doing.
And you're going to use one of these, which you made a point to tell us why that would use one of this sticks like this, a metal stick.
I think that the metal, it responds, the lobster responds way more, aggressively to be in touch with this something,
Hard.
Whether it's metal versus the clear acrylic or the fiberglass ones.
Right.
It's just easier to kind of choreograph, let's say, which way he's going to go, to manipulate them, to get them out of that hole, to get them towards your net. They respond a lot better.
That metal makes them move.
For sure. Metallic was the word I was looking for.
I gotcha. Well,
Yeah.
Boom, we're done. That was 5 minutes. How fast did that go? We didn't even get to half the stuff we have on this sheet.
Okay. Okay.
Well, thanks, man. Thanks for coming. Back to you guys.
Bree, if somebody wants to go on a dive charter, they can certainly contact Johnny Cooper, go diversion.com. Right, Johnny? That's right?
Diversion at bellsouth.net.
Oh, my God. Bellsouth.net. Come on, man. That's as old
AOL.
as Bell South.
He dives better than his email sounds. It's okay. All right. Well, Captain Jimbo is also no stranger to the lobster life in the Casa Vieja Lodge Southeast region. So, Jimbo, get us locals excited for the weekend.
You got it, Bree, and hello to everybody else in the studio. Good job, John. But, lobster season starts this Sunday with the new one-day Florida residents-only mini-season. Otherwise, the regular mini-season is always the last Wednesday and Thursday of July. Then the real season opens on August 6th. Now, the entire southeast region is great for lobstering, but generally the further south you get, the better the lobstering gets because the reef gets a little better. I like to dive on the patch reefs and also the isolated heads and ledges, anywhere from 10 to 20 feet of water in Hawks Channel, but you can also get them in Biscayne Bay if you're not in the park and other shallow water areas. Now, also, the outside reef also holds lobsters, but they're usually a lot harder to catch and they're more spread out in that heavy reef. Now, since the invention of GPS and all these chips that you can put in your chart plotter to find every coral head that's out there, there is no such thing as a secret spot. So it's definitely not uncommon to find somebody else sitting on that secret spot. So if that happens, show some good lobster etiquette, move on to another spot. There's plenty of spots out there. I like to use a net and tickle stick, and that metal tickle stick is what I use also, like what John was talking about. And if there's a lot of lobsters on the spot, you want to work slowly so they don't get spooked and start to walk. And it's always a good idea to go after the biggest lobster of the bunch first. And after you catch a few, you can get an idea and a feel for which ones are legal, which ones are short, so you're not wasting a lot of time catching them small ones. Also, with all the commotion of catching lobsters, not uncommon for a big hogfish or a grouper to show up, so you want to keep that spear gun handy and be sure to put up the dive flag and measure each lobster before you put it in the catch bag, and definitely follow all of those rules because the FWC will be out there in full force. Now, I got a photo here. This is my brother Rick Thomas with a big Biscayne Bay lobster. I don't know when we caught that, but
that's a nice one.
I could find.
Good one.
That's a nice one.
And also, moving back into the boat and actually fishing, we've got a lot of permit on the oceanside flats from Soldier's Key south to Angelfish Creek. You want to look for tailing and cruising permit, anywhere from 2 to 4 feet of water on the outgoing tide. And the best flats are going to be the flats that have moving water and also some life on them, like stingrays and crabs, stuff like that. You want to try and get out early in the morning when the light is good for sight fishing, and also before those afternoon showers set in. You want to use a small blue crab, preferably alive. You want to use light spin tackle, 20-pound fluoro leader, and a 2-0 hook, and cast in front of any permit with that live crab, generally result in a bite. And there's also been some permit caught on crab pattern flies. Now, moving offshore, the dolphin are still pretty much hit or miss. We've been heading offshore anywhere from 5 to 20 miles. If you're lucky enough to find some good floating debris, it's a good shot. You're going to have a good day of dolphin fishing. Otherwise, there's been scattered sargassum weed with some bird activity over small packs of schoolies. Now, they have been getting a little bigger, but we've still been releasing quite a few small ones. And if the fish are traveling to the south, they're most likely going to be the larger ones than the schools going north. Those are usually the small ones. Been getting them on trolled baits, like rig ballyhoo, small dolphin lures. A few of the nicer fish are being caught on the troll. And I like to keep a half dozen 20-pound pin spinners loaded with 50-pound leaders, 5/0 hooks. You want to use live or cut bait. And once you find them, you can cast those spinners to them. I got another photo here. This is Mike Cleveland with a couple of nice mahi caught off Miami, and those are nice ones from what we've been seeing lately.
Good job. Good job,
Yep.
Mike.
And also, right now is a great time to get out and catch some yellowtails, especially in the evenings when it isn't so hot. Yeah, you want to look for good bottom and 40 to 80 feet of water. Get anchored up and start chumming with ground chum and glass minnows. And if you got a light current, that'll help get that chump slick going. A light spinning outfit with 12 to 15-pound test and a 2/0 hook. You want to tie your hook straight to your main line. That's going to work the best. You want to free line small strips of squid, ballyhoo, or bonita back in the chum until you get a bite. And the longer you sit there chumming, the closer those fish will get to the boat. Also, a small jig baited with a strip of bait and also drifted back in the chum will get bites if those fish are staying down a little deep. And these yellowtails have been averaging 2 to 4 pounds, and there's also been some big mangrove snappers mixed in.
All right, Jimbo, great report. Thank you so much for batting third for us this week. We're going to go and take a look at the Black Oak LED hotspots from the southeast region. Jimbo says inshore, get out to the flats at sunrise and look for the tailing permit and bonefish. And then offshore, get anchored up on the reef at sundown with plenty of chum for some of that yellowtail action right at dusk.
All right, well, Rick, since we are obviously talking about lobster this week, you know what really bugs me?
What?
All of these anglers who are capturing star-tagged redfish but are not registered in the competition. Get this, to date there have been 14 tagged redfish caught in the marine redfish division, but no one is taking home a boat package from Contender, Spider Vapor 19 Flats Boat, Deck Hat, or Micro Draft Skiff with Infinity trailers, all powered by Yamaha, or the Sea-Doo Can-In package. It's crazy. The CCA Florida Star competition presented by Yamaha still has over 45 days of fishing and $500,000 in prizes and scholarships up for grabs, but you can't win your share if you're not registered. So go to ccaflstar.com and get registered today, for gosh sakes.
14 winners and no chicken dinners.
No.
That just stinks.
Yeah, I know. So get registered. Just
Gotta
do
do
it.
better,
Just
guys.
do it. All right, well, we're flying those dive flags high in the Real Legends Central East region, but first we're seeing what Captain Tommy Derringer has planned for us in the Front Runner Boats Northeast region when we come back. Look at our live studio audience. I love it. I love it.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Power Pole, Total Boat Control, Berkeley, your fish, our science, Bahio, blue light blocking, radically clear polarized fishing sunglasses, Scoozy Shoes, the captain's choice for premium lightweight comfort, Sea Sucker, easy on, easy off, incredibly strong, Penn, let the battle begin, Kubota, together we do more, and the International Order of T. Roosevelt, protect your right to fish.
Hey guys, check out the new Starbrite ceramic product line, and they come in a variety of different products. This particular product is one of my all-time favorites that Starbrite has ever made. It's called the Wash and Wax. It also has a wax and seal, and then they also have a vinyl detailer as well as a metal detailers and a whole bunch of different ceramic coatings. The reason why you want to try ceramic is because of how lustrous the shine it creates, and more importantly, the beading. And what I've found that it does is it really protects my boat from all the sun and the UV rays. But more importantly, at the end of the day, when I get done fishing, what I find is that it really allows my cleanup to be half the time, because it really helps with grease, it helps with grime, it also helps with that blood. If you guys like to go out and mahi fishing and you get blood everywhere, it's crazy how well it keeps the boat clean. It's real easy to apply. You put 2 ounces per gallon in a 5-gallon bucket. You can mix it a little stronger. That'll make the boys at Starbrite happy. I use my Starbrite brush, but on places that I find that I actually have a little bit of a spot, maybe a leaf fell on the boat while I was cleaning it the time before, or maybe there's some grime. I can use my magic scuff eraser, and more importantly, I can also apply it to my power poles and my Yamaha using the mitt. I put it on the console, I put it across my Garmin screens, I can put it on everywhere. The most important thing you want to do after you get done applying it and scrubbing and rinsing, then you want to make sure that you wipe it down, get all the water spots off using your absorber chamois, and make sure that gives it the ability to harden up when the sun hits it, because the water's not there. I think if you try this product, you're gonna really love it, just like I do. If you have any questions about any other Starbrite cleaning products or all that full ceramic line, go to starbrite.com and check out everything that they got, and tell them that Rick sent you.
Rick, I've never been so zoned in on a cleaning video. You really covered it all. Starbrite has to be so proud. That beating was amazing too.
It's great stuff.
It is, yes, of course. Well, if you can get to them, you're in for a real Legends Central East Region lobster treat. So Captain Jim Ross, let's grill them up.
Well, a couple of things. Congratulations on your birthday.
Oh, thank you.
That just passed.
Thank you. And
congratulations to Rick and Ridge on their tournament win. And I'm telling all you guys out there, get out the drawn butter, because it's time. It is time for you guys and gals to go get some of these lobsters. We got a bunch of them here in the Central East region, so you're not going to want to miss out. Around here, the Real Legends crew like to get out there and do a little free diving off the shallow patch reefs and rocky ledges from about Vero Beach all the way up to about Melbourne Beach. There's actually quite a few lobsters in these things, and sometimes you can dive, you can just way out into the surf and just swim out to these first couple of reefs and catch them right there, so you don't even have to like get in a boat and go diving. That's really cool for people that are don't have the ability to have a boat, but they can still get involved in the lobsters. And then as you get farther north in my region, most of the guys are getting out there and actually doing some diving with actual dive gear and tanks and everything. And the 60, 70, 90 foot ledges, that's where you're going to find the majority of the big bugs out of our particular area. I've got a picture here with Jimmy Williams and a little dinner guest that he brought in here the other day. That's about our average size lobster when you get out onto those 70 to 90 foot reefs.
Nice.
And then I've also got a picture here of a nice red snapper. Red Snapper Day, the whole season is one day right here on the 12th, and hopefully you guys and gals will get out there. Be safe, but there's plenty of snappers, so just move around if somebody's on your secret spot, because there's snapper everywhere. In fact, if somebody wants to go to my flounder hole, please pull the red snapper out of it so I can catch some flounder again. Going on to the sharks, guys and gals. Sharks are everywhere right now, and it's summertime, it's shark season, it's shark week, all of those things go on here on the Space Coast. So we have plenty of bait fish. We got bait fish that's what we got in the water, yeah. So the sharks are out there, and they are basically chasing up and down the beach on these bait fish. When you find the bait, you're gonna find pretty good numbers of fine tooth, black tip. You'll even find some interesting things out there, like this fish that Garen Malin caught the other day with his charter on the Sea Venture boat out of Port Canaveral. Nice. He got an 11-foot long sawfish. Wow. So that's pretty darn cool.
Beautiful.
While he was out there fishing for sharks with a wire rig and some chunk bait on the bottom right there in Canaveral Bight.
Of course he did.
Now swinging inshore, schools of redfish, that's right, you heard me right, schools of redfish are still roaming in the Mosquito Lagoon. They're acting like it's wintertime the way that they're balled up right now in a lot of the areas. So even though, this doesn't typically happen in July, or hasn't happened in July the last 5 or 6 years, now that we're getting some recovery into our lagoon system and getting some better habitat and more seagrass, more bait fish, more shrimps, things of that nature, these fish are staying schooled up, and it's making for some fantastic sight fishing. The saltwater assassin little P&V in the watermelon red flake or the northern crawl colors is working really good, and you can rig that on a weedless worm hook so that it kind of flutters through that grass. You can also try it on a weighted style worm hook or a stand-up head. and that way it can kind of, if you pop it into the sand holes and that sort of thing, it'll kind of stand up and draw the attention of the redfish. Now, most of these fish are running about 20 to 27 inches, and if you don't catch them on artificials, a free line live shrimp or shrimp on a jig head is working pretty darn well. And then last is the snook for my region. Catch and release snook fishing is as good as it gets right now. We have probably seen the best week of the year when it comes to these big snook. All of the inlets have them right now. Even some of the nearshore ledges where you're going to see some of those lobster that we talked about earlier, the fish are holding on those nearshore reefs and wrecks and ledges. And some of these fish are pushing 40 inches. A lot of them are in that 34 to 35 inch range. But right now we're getting them at nighttime in the inlets with the Saltwater Assassin 5-inch Artemis shad. And there's two new colors you guys got to check out. There's a new Slammin' shad color that's really doing well. And then also we've got a new pilchard color from Assassin. I've been throwing that one this week. I've actually jumped a couple of tarpon on it, and the snook have been responding to it. I found one area where the snook were up floating on top, schooling but floating, and I was able to get some fish on that Artemis shad. So, you know, it's got a picture here of one of those fish that we recently caught. There are a lot of good fish at the inlets right now. Guys and gals, get out there, have a safe week. Be safe on the lobster diving, be safe on the red snapper, and hopefully you guys and gals will have a great time here on the Space Coast in the Real Legends region.
Jimmy, I'm telling you, if that pilchard bass assassin gets any sexier, I'm not going to be able to stand myself, man. That thing is hot stuff. All right, Bub, thank you so much. Bait. I'm going to go ahead and get to the Rodan Marine Systems hotspot in the Central East region. He says inshore, the redfish and speckled trout in the Mosquito Lagoon, free line, small live mullet, pigfish, croakers, or that saltwater assassin sea shad along the deeper edges of the grass flats. And guys that want to go offshore for that one-day season, the red snapper, are on all the hard structure in 70 to 200 feet. They'll eat anything that you drop over the side of the boat, including a live or cut bait, squid, fish bites, fried chicken, and maybe even beef jerky.
I bet you're going to try a little piece of it over at the Workbench, aren't you?
I sure am.
Yes, you are. All right, we're finding the occasional big mamma jamma in the front runner boats Northeast region this weekend. So the only question is now, Tommy, how do you like your red snapper cooked?
Well, I mean, if they're eating beef jerky, I guess just you don't have to season them at all. They're already pre-seasoned.
True. Do that.
But, yeah, Bree, we have some lobster here in the front runner boats, Northeast region and offshore, but, you've got to dive deep. And there's not a whole lot of people giving it a go, except for a few that I know that are real experienced divers. And the lobster we do get here, they're offshore, they're generally, like I said, really big. And you may get lucky and find one at the jetties, but it's just something we don't do a whole lot around here. But, what is a big deal here, especially this week, is the red snapper like we were talking about. We have a very short one-day red snapper season coming up this Friday, and I thought we just had to talk about it. And there's a ton of red snapper on all the reefs and wrecks throughout the region from 60 feet and anywhere deeper than that. There's going to be a ton of pressure on those fish this weekend with all the boats that are going to be out there. So you're going to want to bring plenty of bait, live or dead. Chumming is definitely going to be your friend, especially if you get there a little late. Now, once a reef has been fished a little bit, those snappers are going to get shy, and then you can get them fired up again with some chum. Now, that chum, you can use pogies, frozen sardines, cigar minnows, or whatever else you can find. Beef jerky, I guess, too. I personally like to catch a couple bonita on the way out, if possible. Chunk them up for the bait and the chum. It's my absolute favorite one to go with. It's hard for them to deny that stinky piece of bonita. There's also some good-sized mangrove and mutton snapper in those same areas right now, and you can catch them anywhere about 120 foot plus for those other snappers. And just remember, guys, be patient, be good to your fellow anglers out there this weekend. I'm sure it's going to be quite busy, and good luck to everybody giving it a go. And I've got a picture here. This is Patty Scott with one of a bunch of big red snappers that her and her family caught with me on a reef about 8 miles from the beach last week. You don't have to go very far to get some big ones.
Wow, that's a super fish. Tell us about the kingfish, Bub.
Yeah, man, the bait, the pogie situation, been a little tricky this summer, although they have shown up a little better here the last couple of days. So if you're lucky enough to find some pogies along the beach, you're going to be set. There's been some decent kingfish in and around the 4 and 9 mile reefs out of St. Augustine. The beach kingfish have also been around, but they seem to be a little few and far between, just like the pogies have been. So if you find the bait, you're probably in a good spot to fish the beach for some kingfish. You're going to want to grab some live bait inshore just in case if you're going out there for kingfish, in case you can't find the bait along the beach. I spoke to my buddy, Captain Mike McGeehan. He tells me that even jigging up the bait on the reefs has been a little tough, so grab some bait inshore if you can. Now, Captain Mike did say he's been on a decent kingfish bite early in the morning on the nearshore reefs this week. He's either dragging some dead baits or some spoons if he can't get the live stuff first thing, and then later on he'll try to jig up some live bait after he's caught a few kings on those spoons. And I've got another picture here. Captain Mike McGeehan, he sent me this picture of his client with a nice beach kingfish, and I know there's a lot of people going to be out there kingfishing this weekend as well, so hopefully they show up a little bit better. Now, moving inshore, the flounder bite has probably been the most consistent bite this past week. The low tide early in the morning this weekend is going to be a great time to hit the docks around the bayfront in St. Augustine for some flounder. The seawalls and the jetty rocks have also been holding some nice fish. The nearshore reefs have as well. I caught some nice ones out there today. The go-to mud minnow or finger mullet on the bottom, that's the way to go. I also got a couple of good reports of some nice flatties being caught around Matanzas Inlet on the outside of the bridge on that change of tide that's also producing some nice flounder. Now, the other species inshore is redfish, and Jim was talking about them schooling up down there, and they're also schooling up here as well. I spoke to my good buddy, Captain Buzz Brandon from Northeast Florida Angling. He tells me the shallow water redfish bite has been on fire up there in the Jacksonville area. He's been fishing the Dutton Island and the Oak Harbor areas on that last of the outgoing and the first hour or so of the incoming tide, which will be first thing in the morning this weekend. Now, Captain Buzz says he's targeting the smaller runouts and the oyster bar edges with either a live shrimp on a chartreuse quarter-ounce jig head, or he's using some bass assassins or some fish bites as well. Now, he's having his clients blind cast to those areas and then very slowly dragging that shrimp back to the boat. Now, Buzz also said that fish bites jerkbait in white, jigged the same way you would do a live shrimp, has been working really well. And I've got one last picture. Captain Buzz from Northeast Florida Angling sent me this pic of his client with a nice redfish he caught on that white fish bites jerkbait that we also caught some tarpon on. Remember that?
We sure did, bud. Thank you so much, Tommy. Great report. It's time for the strike zone hotspots from the Northeast region. Tommy says inshore, the redfish in the creeks at first light throughout the entire region. Look for them busting or the fish waking, or maybe blind cast into a deeper pockets with live shrimp on a quarter-ounce jig head. And then offshore, red snappers on all the reefs and wrecks from 10 miles on out. Be kind to your fellow offshore anglers this weekend, guys. Don't get into a red snapper fight.
A tussle. Yes. No. Be kind. All right, the CCA Workbench is crawling with all sorts of Taco Marine new products. So let's take a peek with Dave. Dave, what we got over here?
Yeah, we got all kinds of stuff. Can you guess what this is?
Uh-oh. I think I know.
You might know.
I think I know.
A bunch of things all in one.
It's a bunch of things.
All right, then we're getting our gear ready for the Sea-Sucker Panhandle region with Captain Pat Deneen. We'll be right back.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Alta Equipment Company, where uptime matters. Ameritrail, load, launch, relax. Abyss Battery, power your pursuit. Rodan, set it, forget it, catch more fish. Discover Crystal River, Florida. Bass Assassin and Saltwater Assassin, best lures, period. Black Oak LED, never be left in the dark. And Maverick Boat Group, makers of premium boat brands Maverick, Hughes, Pathfinder, and Cobia.
Well, here we are at the CCA Workbench, and it's time for the Taco Marine new products. And Dave, you got a colorful bench tonight.
Yeah, we do. But we're going to start over there with that Scientific Anglers, the boat box. They're a really cool fly box for, the fellas who want to go out and use the long wand to try to catch some fish. They clear your deck of all the streamers and all that stuff, all the little boxes and whatnot, because these things hold a lot. Made out of a durable plastic, got really cool locking locks on there, latches.
The latches.
So they don't come open real easy. The XL holds over 200 flies. That one there you have there is a large, and it holds 150 flies. So they're really nice, and they actually have a little on the top as well. They
That's
got
actually the bottom.
Well, the bottom. Is
So
that the
it
bottom?
doesn't
So it didn't slide
skid.
around?
But then when you stack them on top of one another, they don't slide all over so
There
you can
you
be
go.
bouncing across the bay somewhere, beating your brains out, and you get over there and all your flies are right side up and everybody's happy.
Beautiful. There you go.
Where do we go to find it, Dave?
Scientificanglers.com.
I love these things.
Perfect spot to put all those flies.
Yes, sir.
Next, we got Jim Ross's new products. He tried to, steal some of my money today and did this already. But,
Yes.
we got these Bass Assassin new colors from Bass Assassin. We got the pilchard and the slam and shad.
This is the slam and
That's the
shad.
slam and shad. It looks a lot like a shiner too. It'd be great. And it says saltwater assassin, but the bass would
So
love
how
that
do you
as
think this
well.
would work on the sand, on the beach fish that are swimming down the beach right now?
I think you'd probably catch pompanos on that little one there.
Yeah.
For sure. And all these come on the sea shad, the little P&V, the Artemis shad, and the SW shad, all the same thing. But the really good color that, not that they're both good, but
This
the one that
is my
Rick's
favorite.
very proud of is that pilchard there, which, that does look very nice.
I just love any artificial plastic that has translucent.
Yeah.
So guys, when you go into a store, your favorite tackle store, pull out one of these, hold it up to the light, and then you're gonna be looking at it like the fish does, and he's gonna look like the real deal.
Right.
Where do we go to find these, Bev?
BassAssassin.com.
All right, get your favorite baits.
Next, we have the Lane Blaster LED trolling motor light. And what this is, you can mount this on your trolling motor, and it'll sit way out there on the front of your boat, and it'll blast a really 1,000 lumen light out there. So, you can light your way, as it were. Super bright spotlight beam headlight. It mounts directly to the trolling motor mount. It's waterproof, shockproof, made out of aluminum and stainless steel. It's got a 10-watt single LED 1,000 lumen bulb in there that is good for 50,000 hours.
Wow.
So yeah, that's a really cool thing. You can mount that.
I bet we can find other applications for this as well.
Oh yeah, you can buy 4 or 5 of them and put them on a light bar. You can do all kinds of stuff
I'm
with
going
it.
to challenge myself.
I'm sure you will. You'll
All
find
right.
something to do with it. thmarinesupplies.com.
All right. Now this is something that really goes for tonight's
Yes, it does.
theme.
Yes, this is the ultimate shellfish gauge. It's a multi-use gauge that measures a wide variety of shellfish. All right, I'm gonna take a deep breath. Lobster, stone crab, blue crab, oysters, clams, escape rings for the traps for blue crabs and stone crabs, bottle opener, gas cap, key, and a drain plug wrench.
So this is
in
the drain
one.
plug, bottle opener here.
Yep.
Your lobster gauge.
Yep.
Dude, and then what I love
Oysters.
about it is it's very well marked. It gives you on here.
Those are
all
laser
the
annealed engraved
rules
so that they
and
won't,
regulations.
so that they won't rust away or oxidize as well. So that's really cool as well.
Oh man.
UltimateShellfishGauge.com to get one of
Somebody
those.
was really thinking.
There's a lot of gauges on there.
And this,
I didn't even know they had an oyster gauge.
This is FWC approved.
Yeah, it's not going to shrink. It's not going to.
Good
it's
job,
not
guys.
made out of plastic. So
Where do we go to find it?
UltimateShellfishGauge.com.
Gosh. The ingenuity there. I love it. They really thought of everything.
Almost.
All right. Lobstering in the Sea Sucker Panhandle region is surprisingly good, but Captain Pat Deneen says we got to go deep. Talk to us, Pat.
Yeah, Bree, I tell you what, Panhandle is not really on most people's radar for lobsters, but we do have some pretty good lobstering up here. The catch is you need to be willing to make deeper dives, minimum 60 feet, but more commonly 80 to 120 feet. And with the spiny lobsters, I've never seen one even close to short. But we have large spinies up here. They're always big, mature spiny lobsters, and I've seen plenty exceeding 10 pounds. But even more common are the shovel nose or slipper lobsters, and many folks think that those little smaller lobsters are better eaten of the two flavors. Both are going to be found on natural and artificial bottom, and I believe that the natural bottom is way more productive for lobsters in our region. Spinies will be standing on the sand under the overhangs, many times way up under the overhangs. And if you see an abundance of small clam shells or bivalve shells at the entrance to a hole, it's a very good indication that there's a spiny either living in that hole or living near a well, or nearby. So, definitely investigate closely. Shovel nose are most often going to be hanging upside down on the roofs of the overhangs of the same holes the spinies are in. But they're going to be upside down hanging on the roof. And they blend in pretty good. They have little blue tips on their antenna, kind of like scallop eyes. And experienced divers, they key in on those little blue antenna tips to find these shelvinose. They blend in really well. A good dive light is critical to finding lobsters in our region because they're not going to be outside. They're going to be inside those holes. And a tickle stick goes a long way for walking the spiny out of its hole. And there's a photo of Dr. Cheney from Niceville, and he's got a very nice long goose of lobster he caught diving out of Destin. And that's a pretty typical size lobster that we catch up here, pretty average, I guess.
Nice.
And there's another picture. It's also out of Destin, and that's a mess of shelvinose right there. I don't know how many are there, but there's a pile of them. And not to mention, they're way more smaller, but way more common than spiny.
Hey, Pat, can we have a secret? I want the secret to be that next time you see a photo like that, you call me and we'll have a lobster. I'm coming in hot.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
Okay. Tell us about the blue marlin.
Well, hey, Rick, staying offshore. This summer has been pretty good for marlin fishing. I mean, the fishing has been as hot as the weather. Additionally, for the most part, the seas have been awesome for running offshore and pulling baits. The tournament boats, live baiting, have been hanging a lot of laundry, catching numerous blues near the floating rigs. Captain Chase Lake on the Team Supreme, he won the catch and release last weekend at Bay Point, releasing 5 blues and a white, which is some pretty good 2-day fishing. But the open water bite in the area around the Squiggles has been producing as well. Captain Hunter Fords on the Raise 'em Up released a bunch of sails and a couple of marlin on a 2-day trip this past week. Hunter had 14 teaser bites. And that's pretty fun fishing anywhere in the world. You want to look for color changes, weed lines, floating debris, or really bird activity, anything that indicates the presence of bait. And there's a photo from the Bay Point tournaments, winning blue marlin. That fella sitting on the back deck of the Windsong, heading to the scales. That was the only bite Captain Allen had, but it paid off really, really nicely.
That's a big, big fish. All right, bud, let's go inshore.
Something.
Woo-hoo.
All right, and moving inshore, all the captains throughout the Sea Sucker Panhandle region, they're doing really well targeting mangrove snappers, the range marker at the entrance to St. Joe Bay, and the nearshore artificial reefs off Gulf County are a great place to find mangroves in the eastern part of our region. The jetties, the bridges, the deepwater docks near the bay entrances are the places to find the fish in Panama City, Destin, and Pensacola. Basically, you want to fish that inshore structure that has a little bit of depth to it. Small pogies, pilchards, and shrimps are the baits of choice. You want to use small, light wire circle hooks, size for your bait. The smaller the hook, the better, and light fluorocarbon leaders. If you're going to be fishing at night around that structure, you can get away with a little bit heavier leaders. And then finally, inshore, it's mostly been calm with light winds, despite a few days of weather. But there's been a lot of light wind, sunshine, clear water, and the weather has been as hot as all get out. Perfect conditions for tarpon fishing. As always, you want to get away from the boat traffic if you can, and give the fish some elbow room when you find them. The fish will be more relaxed and more prone to bite, if you stay off of them. The fish are breaking up into smaller groups right now. The bigger schools are less common, but now is when we're starting to get the bigger fish. We've had a lot of smaller fish this year, Rick. 30 to 40 pounders. It's been kind of cool, but right now, the bigger ones are showing up.
All right, Pat, thanks for the great report. You covered from A to Z. I'm grateful for that. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the Panhandle hotspots. Pat says inshore, trout, redfish, and ladyfish under the dock lights at night. Free line, small pogies, pilchards, or some spot minnows. You can also toss streamers, clousers, and gummy minnows on the fly rod to catch that stuff under the dock. And then offshore, daytime sword fishing has been really consistent at the spur and the steps, 1,200 to 1,500 feet of water. What do you think?
Well, I think we're doing some hunting with our captains in the Discover Crystal River Northwest and Startron Central West regions when we come back. So don't go away. There's more.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Startron. Start, run, and store with Startron. Berkeley, your fish, our science. CCA Florida, the voice of recreational anglers for over 35 years. Front Runner Boats, performance-built offshore fishing boats made in the USA. Takeuchi, from world first to world leader. The Florida Keys and Key West, come as you are. Murphy's Law Sport Fishing. Book your trip today at murphyslawsportfishing.com. And Strike Zone Fishing.
Welcome back, everyone. Those spiny, slippery, bulldozery type bugs are what's lurking in the depths of the Discover Crystal River Northwest region. Plus, it's scallop season. So let's get more details from Captain Jeff Hageman.
Lobster can be found in the lower half of my region. Most of the lobster require a tank. Most of ours are pretty deep, 60 to 120 feet. Generally, they're a little bit bigger than the ones found down south. And we also have two different species. We have the spiny and the bulldozer in the lower part of the region. And both can be caught on ledges, reefs, wrecks, and 60 to 120 feet of water is where we get most of them. But it's not something a lot of people target. But a lot of people are targeting right now. Captain Rob Davenport, Big Nasty Sport Fishing out of St. Pete, reports a good scamp bite right now. It's been good anywhere from 160 to 200 feet. Finding them on hard bottom ledges. Don't be afraid to drop those jigs. They've been working really well. Scamps have been loving those slow pitch jigs in the 140 to 230 gram size jig, 60 to 80 pound fluorocarbon leader. Drop it down to the bottom, jig it up about 20 feet, and then let it flutter back down. That's been the way they've been catching a lot of them. And I got a photo here of Parker with a nice scamp on a jig.
Nice, bub. All right. What else you got for us?
I got some snook reports right now. Captain Jim's been doing really good out of Zona Dish Camp. Snook bite's been strong along the beaches and jetties. Nose hooking big pinfish and grunts parallel to the beach on the outgoing tide's been working really well to catch those larger fish. Good numbers of mid-slot fish are found on the jetties right now, and he's mostly catching those on greenbacks, belly hooked on the incoming tide. With the water being a little clear right now, 30-pound leader has been the way to do it without avoiding those cutoffs. And I got a photo here from Captain Jimmy with a nice beach snook.
Nice. All right, what else you got?
We don't have as much lobster as you guys got. We do have scallop season, and Pasco opened up today, so the whole coast is opened up. And the scallop season's been really good. Captain Bobby Brady out of Steinhatchee reports a great season right now. They've been really thick up there. Remember to fly those dive flags when operating your boat around other dive boats. And if you're around anybody that's diving and got a flag up and you're within 100 yards, you should be at idle. It's really easy for a snorkeler who's got his face down looking for scallops to get away from his boat, get away from his dive flag. So be careful, be on the lookout right now. Good reports all the way from Pasco all the way up to Steinhatchee. Lots of scallops. Most of them have been in 4 to 6 feet of water. And be safe out there. I got a photo from Captain Bobby with a 38-person limit with a big group behind it. That was a good mess of scallops for a day. I had a little group of scallops.
So Jeff, I got a question for you. You know, a lot of guys talk about this slow pitch jigging. You've been around as long as I have. And I gotta say, what's the difference between slow pitch jigging and what we were doing before they made metal jigs to where you go out there and metal jig like you're having some type of fit? You know, so tell me what you think the difference is in slow pitching and what we used to do before. It's the same, isn't it?
It kind of is. That diamond jig just kind of went straight up and down. It didn't do that flutter. With that flat side of that slow pitch, it kind of flutters a little more, I think. And I used to use those diamond jigs, too, when we were deep dropping those diamond jigs. And they did work, and they were effective, but I think that slow pitch kind of slows that jig down and lets it flip-flop all the way down to the bottom. And I think it creates a little better action than the old diamond jigs we used to use.
All right, man. Well, obviously, you never used the bucktail, but that's for another day. We'll talk about that later. Thank you so much. It's time for the Ozeleki Marina Hotspots from the Northwest region. My man says inshore, snook along the beaches and the passes on the incoming and the outgoing tide. Use pinfish and sardines, free line. And then offshore, mangrove snappers on the high relief structure and 20 to 60 feet of water, shrimp or small sardines. Free line on a knocker rig is going to work best for them.
Well, apparently he hasn't been around as long as you have. You don't know.
I mean, back in the day, man, it was a bucktail jig, boink, 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 poof. And that's what it is now.
That's what it is now. All right, well, let's head a little further south and see what our Startron Central West Region Captain, Jeff Page, has us in search of this weekend. Hello, Jeffra.
Hello, everybody. You know, we probably have a few lobsters in our region, but our big shellfish that we harvest is in October till May is the stone crab, and he eats just about as good as that lobster. But that being said, the tarpon fishing has been really strong into the latter part of the season. And I think, Rick, a lot of that's due to that we've had a lot of light east winds in the morning, sea breezes in the afternoon, but we haven't had those 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 days of west wind that drives those fish offshore. Still, there's a lot of fish along the beaches. They're in a lot smaller groups. They have spawned out probably for the last time. Maybe there'll be another spawn in the full moon in July, but for the most part, they're in smaller groups. And the style of fishing now has been find the line that they're traveling, be it 12 feet to 20 feet, and get on that line and put your spot lock or anchor out and put corked baits out on that line. Even though you may see one roll to your left or right, just have your baits out there. You're going to get the bite. It takes a little more patience, but you're going to get the bite. Now, you want instant action, you go at night around the bridges, Longboat Pass, New Pass Bridge, Anna Maria, Rod and Reel Pier, and then down to the south, El Joe Bean Bridge, and you'll see the fish in the lights, in the shadow lines from the street lights. And there you're going to want to use like a live silver mullet, a live ladyfish, a big swim bait. That would work real well. A Berkeley stick shad, one of those large 110s, would work real good. Now, my photo tonight is a real nice tarpon pick, and I don't have the gentleman's name, but I believe that's Dylan McDonald, Mike McDonald's son, with a nice tarpon he got just the other day in his 23 Pathfinder.
Nice.
Staying inshore, the redfish action. No, we're not having the action that we have in August and September, but it's been really good, Rick. And the cool thing is we're seeing lots of groups of those 20 to 24-inch fish, which are going to be upper slot next year. And a lot of areas on the higher tides around Oyster Bars, Bull Bay, Turtle Bay down to the south, and even out along the beaches, Rick, it's been calm, it's real clear, and there's lots of bait pressed right up against that beach. I've been doing pretty well catching them on the high tides, like I said, around Long Bar and Palmasola Bay, and I've been using small pinfish, or I've been using a white gulp shrimp on a 1/4-ounce jig head. And I've got a redfish photo tonight of a young friend of mine that fished with me the other day. His name is William Flores.
All right, let's go offshore.
Moving on, red snapper, that probably remains the #1 fish men are after. And again, calm weather has been allowing guys to get offshore in bay boats in that 150 to 200 feet of water, live pinfish, ledges, springs, hard bottom areas. You're going to get your red snappers. Even frozen sardines have been working real well. It's got a real nice red snapper pick tonight. 2 happy men that fished with Captain Jason, full send stock. And my last species, the mangrove snapper, might as well stay on the snapper bus. It's been really good, and they've been in a lot closer. They're catching good quality mangs in as shallow as 70, 80 feet, hard bottom area, ledges, live pinfish, pilchards, and it's not a bad idea to have a chum bag out and even scissor up some small pilchards. And I want to finish tonight not with a snapper picture, but with a picture of the 5 captains that are going to be doing something at the end of July, the 25th, and you'll be able to donate and go live and watch it on Facebook. It's not a per se tournament where we're against each other, but we're taking kids with pediatric cancer that are involved with the National Pediatric Cancer Foundation, and it's all through Kent Hickman and the Power Pole Redfish Tour.
All right, good job on that. My congratulations to all those kids and to you guys for doing that. I can't wait to hear the results. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the daiquiri deck hotspots from the Central West region. Captain Page says that inshore, the speckled trout fish the deeper grass flat patches and 4 to 7 feet on the outside edges of Emerson Point, as well as Long Bar Point and Sisters Key. Use topwater plugs and soft plastic 3-inch gulp shrimp under a popping cork. And then offshore, red snappers fish hard bottom areas in 150 feet of water off of Venice north to New Pass. Live pinfish is going to be your best bait, Bree.
All right, well, while you're on the road this summer, make sure you show your support for Florida's fisheries with a Conserve Florida's Fisheries license plate. Funds from the sale of the redfish tag directly support protecting and enhancing marine resources, habitat restoration, water quality, and coastal environmental education. Make sure you get yours now at your local DMV or redfishtag.com. But you know what, coming up next, we're swimming into the Alto Equipment Southwest region with Captain Ronnie Houston. We'll be right back. Make sure you stay with us.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. Fenwick. Feel everything. Island Lures. Tournament Tackle. The IGFA. Every fish, every water, every angler since 1939. Sportsman's Adventures with Captain Rick Murphy. 30 years of fishing for adventure. Berkeley Pro Spec Chrome. Real Legends, available at bellsflorida.com. And Taco Marine, master the catch.
Today's Power Pull tips are about all the new enhancements to the Power Pull Charge power management station. We added new hardware and stronger relays in it to make it more durable for you out on the water. The latest free software updates improve the on-off feature, so when you don't have the ability to plug your charge in, you simply turn it on and off in the app. We also added a sweet hibernation feature, which you can set a timer when your Power Pull Charge hibernates. So if you're keeping your boat in a high and dry or storing it at a storage lot where you can't plug it in, the Power Pull Charge no longer moves power and protects your batteries when you're away from a plug. We enhanced the engine slider priority, so if you have a lot of 12-volt accessories running, you simply move that priority over to the engine side, and we will charge and hold your engine battery higher than ever before, so you can run multiple fish finders, live wells, and all those other accessories you added to your boat. We also integrated with Garmin, so you now can see your charging priority all day long, right from your Garmin MFD. You can choose where you want the power to go when your engine's running. You can also initiate an emergency start should your outboard not be able to start right from your Garmin Fish Finder. All these new features are all laid out on the Power Pull website, so go to powerpull.com to learn more, and that's your Power Pull tip.
All right, well, Captain Ronnie Houston is on the line and wrapping it up for us in the Alto Equipment Southwest region. Ronnie, what do you got for our weekend?
Well, you know, obviously lobster's not common in the region, but I'll tell you what, with all the recent rains we had and the abundance of fresh water, the snook right now in the Everglades backcountry, that bite has really picked up considerably. When it concentrates on fishing wind-blown shorelines, gogs in shorelines, mouths of feeder creeks, along with points all combined with current. Also, your beaches and passes right now from Goodland to Fort Myers Beach, at the higher tides, the fish seem like they're grouping up for the spawn. You know, you'll catch one or two, and another dozen, 2 dozen will come up with them to the boat. To the north, Captain Danny Layson tells me he's also seen a similar situation from Boca Grande to Sanibel as fish are starting to enter the passes and along the beaches. While I'm fishing in the backcountry, I'm trying to concentrate on that current and more fresher water, and the baits I've been using is that new Savage Twitch Creeper or the Berkeley Stick Shad. Colors are going to be chartreuse, black and gold, or the best one's been white glow. Now, your passes and beach, live pilchards, live herring, and pinfish are still working. And one thing I like about that Savage Twitch Reaper is if you watch a lot of these bass shows and watch these guys with those glide baits, that Twitch Reaper reminds me of a 3.5-inch glide bait. That's once I stop that bait in the current, it just pauses and leaves the target for the fish to eat. And I've got a similar picture of a fish that was just recently caught using the Savage Twitch Reaper in the backcountry in the last few days. Next species is going to be the redfish. You know, Captain Danny Latham reports the bite's been pretty good on the higher tides right now around Bull and Turtle Bay, and he tells me he's looking for the deeper shorelines with good moving water, also with a combination of oysters and areas of shade. Now, the baits he's using up there right now is a live pinfish or a variety of cut baits will work on those tides. But down by me to the south right now, Rush Key to Pavilion Key, you know, similar situation, higher tides, but I'm concentrating on areas of panic water. It's a similar situation, but I'm looking for deadwood and oyster bottom. And baits you can use right now to be catching those redfish in both areas are cut baits, you know, live pilchards, panic water to the south, that root beer colored bass, assess, and shrimp. Paddle tails or the old-fashioned brown and yellow bucktails tip with shrimp, and the scent of that shrimp, color of that yellow will draw them redfish to it. And I've got a picture of a redfish just recently caught with Danny's pattern up to the north. The offshore report, the red snapper bite's still been consistent according to Captain Gordy Watson. Depths of right now from 150 to 170. But he's telling me with the pressure, a lot of areas have been fished since the season opened. You're going to have to be patient and keeping an eye on your bottom finder, looking for similar areas you fished when the season opened and the fishing was really, really good. Running from spot to spot, keep an eye on your bottom finder and expanding in those areas. He's telling me, though, the rigs he's using are chicken rigs right now for the red snappers. Also, pinfish on those chicken rigs or squid. It's been working best for him. But he's also telling me he's catching a variety of scamps in the same areas with the red snappers he's catching. And I got a picture with Captain Gordy Watson showing off a nice red snapper recently caught in the last few days.
Wow.
Dang.
That is a good one.
Great summertime bite. This is the time to get out there and really get them. The mangrove snappers. Nighttime as well as daytime, the bite has been very good. All you want to do is concentrate on fishing ledges and wrecks right now. Depths I'm being told are 85 to 115 feet of water. Just about any type of chum will work to get these fish going. Careful not to overfeed them because you'll shut them down. Cut that bite down and make the fish finicky. Chum enough to get them going. Live pilchers that can be caught off the beach are a lot smaller. Cut baits drop back and be getting easy limits. Depending upon the water clarity, you can also use small cut baits. Water's really clean. You can have to drop down to maybe 15, 20-pound leaders. But if there's a little dinge into it after a good blow, 30-pound to work. And I got a variety of mangrove snappers that were just recently caught while fishing with hog wall charters. Weather's still looking good for this weekend. Get out, inshore and offshore. Fish should be biting.
Ronnie, real quickly, I want to ask you, you're probably one of the best artificial guys I know for catching a big snook. What can guys do to increase their chances if they want to catch one? You got about 20 seconds.
Well, right now, increase your chances right now. Find these fish with top water walk the dog lures. If they're missing the lures, throw back a subsurface like the Twitch Reaper or maybe the Berkeley Stick Shad. But right now, concentrate your efforts. You want to catch a good one right now. Fresh water combined with current, going to catch some good fish.
That's some good advice. Thank you so much, Midnight Cowboy. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the battery tender hot spots from the Southwest region. Ronnie says inshore, the peacock bass and the largemouth bass in the local canals and lakes, fishing bridges or current using live shiners. Then offshore, permit fishing in Indian Key to Wiggins Pass on the wrecks and artificial reefs using live crabs, Bree.
The best you know. That is quite the compliment, sir. Absolutely. Well, I'm going to take note on what he just said, too. All right, anglers, coming up next week is the 43rd annual Key West Marlin Tournament, July 17th through the 20th, with record-breaking payouts, legendary offshore angling, and nightly festivities in the iconic Florida Keys. A Hemingway-esque adventure awaits. You still have time to get registered at keywestmarlin.com, but that gap's closing real quick, so make sure you do that.
You're absolutely right. The cool part about going down to Key West is there's
Everything.
Key West, period. You know what I mean? But the fishing down there this time of year, when you go to Woods Wall, there's no telling what you're going to catch. You could catch a 50-pound dolphin, which pays. You could catch a big tuna, which pays. You could catch sailfish, which pays.
So what you're
and
saying
then
is
the wider
can't
the blue
lose.
marlin is going to pay.
You can't lose. You're going to win.
Guys, got to go.
All right. Florida this weekend is for us as we embark on the first ever mini season. And we can't wait to see all the bug photos. But stay with us so we can tell you what's on the menu for next week. We'll be right back. All right, join us next week. We are talking mangrove snappers, so make sure you tune in. I know a lot of the captains tonight were talking about it, so you know what's happening. They're out there. But we want to thank our live studio audience. It's been a great show. I want to thank Johnny Cooper, our guest. It's going to be an amazing weekend in the water.
How was your birthday?
And on the water.
How was your birthday?
Why is everyone keep asking me? I got older. It was great.
Oh, of course it is. You're like a fine bottle of wine. You just get better with time.
Lordy, here we go.
Come on.
I just get larger.
Yeah, well, don't we all?
We all
Look at that
do.
little
Look
cutie
at
down there in
that
the
little
corner.
pumpkin.
All right, well, get out there, catch those lobster, and we'll see y'all next week for some Schnapper Talk. Adios.